Okay, John, let's talk about the mid-September rate cut. Were you expecting this?
Well, we were hoping that there was going to be a 50 basis point cut. We felt that that's what the market really needed. Right up until the cut, actually that week, you did see that the market started pricing in the chance of only a 25 basis point cut. But as you can see by what happened in the market, the 50 basis point cut was well received, as you've had a nice rally since then in the market.
Ben Bernanke went to Capitol Hill and he's assured lawmakers that the central bank will take steps to curb fallout from this mortgage mess. Do you think that the Fed will continue to cut rates going forward?
We do feel, at least for now, that the Fed will continue to be proactive and will cut rates again when they meet in November. That's not to say that it is their job, nor will they try to actually step and intervene as far as the mortgage market goes. I do feel that you will have the attorney generals in the various states, as well as the Senate and the Congress, who will intervene there and really try to either bail out or punish those who are already involved.
Alan Greenspan says that there is a better than 30% chance of a recession, and says that further drop in home prices could still hurt consumer spending. What are your views on that?
Well, I think that it's hard to give a number like 30%, but as you can see from recent numbers, housing prices have continued to slump. It's now being led more by the West Coast than it was originally on the East Coast, so it is a nationwide housing recession that you're seeing right now. Whether or not that actually goes over to and becomes an actual full-out recession is still up in the air. You did touch on the consumer. They have still been resilient. You actually saw consumer confidence come out way above where it was expected this week. And, you know, with oil at roughly $80 a barrel, and you have gold at roughly $730, you know, people are still buying. So there's no reason to, I guess, consider the consumer is going to stop now.
Bermuda banks, are they likely to follow the Fed by cutting rates?
Unfortunately, to the Bermuda consumer, I think the only rate that's going to get cut is going to be the actual lending rate that they lend out their CDs or savings accounts or checking account. As far as the mortgage rate goes, if you recall back when the rates were going up 2 years ago, the local banks didn't actually follow through and go lock in step. So the last couple of times they raised rates, the local banks didn't do that, which I think gives them a little bit of leeway right now to not cut rates at this point. Come November, when rates actually, if they are in fact cut again, I think that the local banks will make a move to at least slash the base rate a little bit.
Now, in Bermuda, the cost of borrowing is significantly higher above the base rate than it is in other countries. How might we see more competitive borrowing rates in Bermuda?
Well, I think that the answer to that is actually twofold. First of all, with the fact that you only have a limited number of lenders here on the island, you have to look at the actual risk premium. You have to actually look at the risk premium that it costs or that these lenders want to take on before they will lend. So there's always going to be an added risk that's going to be beyond what mortgage costs in the States. But I think you already have seen, since Bank of Bermuda was taken over a couple of years ago by HSBC, the competitive nature of the business has really, the margins have shrunk. And I think as Bermuda Commercial Bank and possibly down the road Bank of Butterfield, as they are taken over by international finance companies or other banks, you will see more of a competition in the market, because at the end of the day, if you have a mortgage with one bank and a new one comes along and offers something that's 1 or 2% better, everyone's going to get up and immediately run down to the new bank. So that will drive competition.
So what you're saying is that you're predicting that the commercial bank or the Bank of Butterfield will be taken over?
You know, I think that Bermuda Commercial Bank is in the midst of trying to find the right suitor. I think that it should happen sometime in the next 6 months. Bank of Butterfield's a different story. It's a healthy bank on its own. The numbers have been great over the last couple of years. They don't need to necessarily look for an international suitor as long as they're happy in the niche that they have right now. That's not saying down the road something might change.
Okay, John, we touched on the price of oil is at a record high. Do you think that oil is fairly priced at the moment?
I think right now, if you look at commodities in general, I think obviously it's a very important part of someone's asset allocation. But oil itself, we feel, is fairly valued at around $80 a barrel. We do think that the precious metals will continue to go higher. You might see some consolidation somewhere around $7.25 for a while. But we do think that you are looking at higher commodities prices across the board going forward.
And with this rate cut, the U.S. dollar fell against a basket of currencies. Bermudians looking to travel or to work or to study overseas, how should they be playing this, particularly against the pound and possibly against the Canadian dollar?
I think, first of all, you have to be very, very careful because commodities can move very quickly. You'll see 5% shifts that can happen in a week or even quicker than that. So as far as actually, as you said, playing it, I think it has to be more of a long-term investment decision. That being said, I think that the U.S. dollar will continue to weaken against most currencies, but as we stand right now, you have had a bit of an overshoot possibly. So I wouldn't go out and think that this is the end for the dollar necessarily. You have to remember that oil and gold and all the major commodities are still priced on dollars. Going down the road, we're a little bit concerned about the UK economy, which is why we feel that you may want to rethink the allocation you have towards sterling right now. One currency that we actually do like right now versus the dollar is the Swissy. I think the Swiss franc, which is a commodities-based currency, hasn't had the same run as maybe the Canadian dollar has or the Australian dollar. So, and coupled with the fact that it is also more of a euro-based currency, it's a nice way to go right now.
Just going back to Great Britain, where we saw in mid-September a run on Northern Bank, and the central bank had to step in and inject some liquidity. Gordon Brown, perhaps an election coming up quite soon. He used to be the finance minister. Has stepped away from that. Do you think that Great Britain is in safe hands at the moment?
Well, I think that the UK has some of the same mortgage issues that they're going to have to swallow that the US does. When the various lenders, Northern or Alliance or the rest of them, over the past couple years, they've actually been a lot looser in the rates that they've been charging. Their spreads have gone down, and they've been a little bit frivolous and let's say weaker in selecting who they lend to. So that's what caused the problem, and that has to be swallowed before that economy can move forward.
Do you anticipate any of those type of problems coming to Bermuda?
At this point, Bermuda's its own little, it is its own little island. As long as the economy stays strong, as long as the insurance world stays strong, there's no reason to think that Bermuda should have a burst in the current housing bubble.
But a recession in the U.S. could have an effect on, let's say, the tourism product and perhaps jobs in insurance companies.
Well, Bermuda still is in the unique position that its tourism product, for better or for worse, is heavily reliant on the top 5 to 10% of the U.S. consumers. That being the case, those are generally the people who can still afford to fly. Could hurt the regular cruiser, but as far as the whole tourism product, I don't anticipate, unless you have a deep recession, that it's going to really harm that. As far as the insurance goes, I think that as long as Bermuda continues to move forward with its regulation, which all signs are that we have, we're moving the right way, I think that Bermuda will continue to excel in this industry. And unfortunately, each time there's been a natural disaster recently, Bermuda's been sort of the one jurisdiction that has capitalized on it, and I think that will continue going forward.
Jon, thank you very much.
Thank you.